Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our hybrid pre-show. I'm Nikki McLean, and I'm here live at the Intercontinental St. Paul Riverfront. My first guest on today's pre-show is Lindsay Carter, who actually works at the hotel here. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thanks, Nikki.
So what we were hoping Lindsay could share with us is a little bit about what's new and exciting with the venue. We're so thankful for them to be able to sponsor today's event. So Lindsay, tell us what's going on with the hotel.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Intercontinental here. So we are newly the Intercontinental. We've been branded with this flag for about a year now. So about a year ago, we finished a 2.5-year renovation, really touching every guest room and all the public space, totaled about $38 million. So we're happy to welcome all the MPI members here today. We haven't hosted an event in several years, so we're happy for the big reveal. We also feature a brand new restaurant on our lobby level called Citizen Supper Club with some great cocktails, kind of throwback to the 60s, as well as 20 tap beers and great breakfast, lunch, and dinner options. We also have an Ambassador Club lounge on our lobby level, which is a premier club for the Intercontinental brand. And of course, we're located right across the street from the beautiful Mississippi River, so all of our guest rooms feature some sort of water view, so there's never really a bad room in the house.
Well, and this room that we're in is absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much today for sponsoring and hosting, and we look forward to doing the tours after the session.
Excellent.
Thanks, Lindsay. Okay. Okay, so our next guest is Megan Likes. Welcome. She's with National Co-op Grocers, and she is also one of our planners that's helping with next month's iConnect. So Megan, what can we expect from the day-long event that we have coming up in February?
Well, iConnect is the Minnesota chapter's one-day conference for innovation, and we have some really great keynote speakers. We have Corbin Ball. He's an event technology industry expert, and he will be doing our opening keynote, followed by Roger Haskett with Engagement Unlimited. He is going to be talking about the power of play and really digging into the neuroscience and how planners can use that neuroscience and the magic of play and to incorporate that into their meetings and events. We also have our closing keynote, Cannonballs into the Pool, with Teresa Rose, and she's going to be talking about mindfulness and the power of presence in our workday and our everyday life as well. So we are really, really excited. For MPI members, the registration fee is $125. There's also a hybrid option. So you can go to MPIMN.org and find the upcoming events, and iConnect will be posted there. The registration fee, again, is all that is posted there. There's group registration fee discounts, complimentary parking on site. There's all your food and beverage is included as well. And we are applying for CIC credits. We have over 200 people coming this year, so that's really exciting. And it's a great networking and sponsorship opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. It's great to hear about iConnect. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
So as you heard, if you can't join in person for iConnect, what? Okay. Yep. So if you heard from Megan, if you can't make it in person, you definitely can still attend the hybrid portion, and we would encourage you to do so since it's all about technology and innovation. So my final guest on today's pre-show is Debbie Hagan. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm just posting on Facebook that we're here.
Thank you, Debbie. We love the social interaction. So what I wanted to find out from you is, why are you excited to be at today's session? So it sounds like Lynn Wellish is going to tell us how we can do maybe a little bit more with less and maybe not let our scope creep. So what's one thing that you're looking to kind of eliminate in 2017 that you felt maybe wasn't something that you should keep doing, or it was taking up too much of your time?
Yeah, it's a great program to have to start the new year, because we can get caught in those traps of doing the same old, and really taking the time to look at how can I be more effective and what can I maybe drop or do less of that I haven't done before. And what I'm trying to do less of is the busy paperwork. The paperwork that nobody reads. I've been working hard towards making all my files electronic and not having paper all over the desk to free up more time, because then you wind up spending a whole day or a whole weekend sorting out all the paperwork, trying to decide what can I keep, what can I leave, and I can be a bit of a hoarder according to my children.
Well, thank you. I think that is a great tip for 2017. For me personally, I've decided I'm not going to be so connected to my phone. So I feel like I'm on it 24/7, and I do love social media. Don't get me wrong. I love participating in it, but I've decided I'm only going to check my emails at strategic times during the day and actually block out times to work on projects. Otherwise, I feel like I don't get anything done.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
All right. Well, thank you again, Debbie, for being a part of our show.
Join us next month.
Yep, we hope to see you all at the Hybrid iConnect event. And for now, we're going to go enjoy our lunch, and hopefully you enjoy our speaker. Thank you.
I am so excited to be here. I can't tell you, when Steph told me she was going to be president, I knew I was going to end up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I've never been here before. I'm from Arizona, so when I woke up, I saw all that snow. And that's what they told me it was called, snow on the ground. We have very little of it in Phoenix. All right, so I am going to ask you all to raise your hand. Can you raise your hand? Can you raise it higher? 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 Okay, can you give me just one more quarter inch? All right, thanks. You can put your hands down. So how did that feel? When I asked you to raise your hand 1/4 more inch, who was happy to do it? Happy to comply? But when you're planning a meeting or event and somebody says, can you do just one more thing, how does that make you feel? Right? Does it make you feel empty? Drained? Do you feel like you have nothing left to give? And does that happen to you daily? Weekly? I'm just getting a little party favor. Monthly? It happens to me all the time. Sometimes when you're designing a scope of work and you work so hard on your contract and then you talk to your client and you realize what they see and what you see are totally different. So according to Julia Rutherford Silver, now she wrote the book Professional Event Coordination. That's the book that they use for the Certified Special Event Planner. She says, scope creep is when the scope of a project creeps outside the boundaries that you've originally established. Who's ever had that happen to them? Oh my God, this is awesome. And does it happen daily, weekly, monthly? Who else has had it happen? Oh, okay. So it actually just happened to me, and I'm going to give you a really great hint that you're going to write down. So I was contracted to do some work, and I don't write contracts. It works for like Helms Briscoe, Conference Direct, Global Synergies, or HPN, right? They write contracts all day long, right? Me, not so much. So I was hired to do a project. I read the contract one way. She read the contract another way. Whoever went back and reread their contract. And then I could see, oh my gosh, that's why she thought I would do that. So then in the contract, now write this down. She had, at any time, anyone can give a 30-day notice and the contract is over. So I did that. Has anybody else ever done that? Right? You know right away you don't match. So go ahead and make sure that you put that in all your contracts. So let's look at the anatomy of an event or a meeting. When you're planning something, you have to look at that from your participant's point of view. That's who you're planning the meeting for. Whether your client is internal or external, it's the person attending that you're designing the meeting for, right? You're creating the atmosphere. You are so pretty. The environment, right? You're defining the expectations. So think about today. What made you want to come see me speak today? What created that anticipation in you? Did you ever get an invitation for something and you thought, I totally want to go to that, or that doesn't speak my language? So you are creating that desire within you, just like your participants are when they get that first email or the invitation. Who here's ever done incentives? How great are incentives? Great, right? So think about the arrival. So now the person is expecting to come to your event or your meeting, and they're so excited to come, and if you've done incentives, they are going to go down to the luggage area, and they're going to be greeted by a guy with a sign, just like I was, and it's going to say, hello, Mr. Incentive Winner. You and your companion are going to ride in my limo to your resort hotel where you're going to be treated so fabulously. Or maybe you're going to be doing some co-creating together, training. Does anybody work for a medical device company? Don't you constantly train your salespeople on the new techniques and the new devices? Or maybe it's a rave. Maybe they're going to walk in and there's going to be all kinds of loud music. Or maybe it's going to be team building. But you as the meeting and event planner, you need to design what's that going to be like. What's it going to be like when they walk in the room? Quiet, loud. When they arrive, is there a limo? Maybe there's bagpipes. I'm from Phoenix. We do a lot of flute, Native American flutes. Or maybe, like me, you have clients with great budgets, and so you call your friends' kids and they show up and they flash pictures on a red carpet, right? Anything to extend that budget. Then there's the appetite. Are we not all about food, right? As meeting and event planners, aren't you always thinking about, do I want steaks off the grill? Do I want interactive stations? Do I want something from the local vendors? Then your activity. So today, you can't even be a legitimate meeting or event unless you have photography, right? Sometimes you have videography. Sometimes you have a tea leaf reader. Sometimes you have those people that eat fire, poi. There's lots of things for people to do. Pixel paint is really big in Phoenix. I don't know if you have that here. And then there's the amenities, like I'm passing out. This is all you're going to have left about my presentation at the end. And hopefully it will bring a smile to your face when you think about that wackadoodle girl from Phoenix. So every time somebody says, could you just do one more thing, you have to think about how is that going to impact one of those 6 dimensions, and how is that going to add to the experience of the participant? Otherwise, you could be talking all day about nothing, right? And spending those valuable hours researching things that are not going to happen. Whoops. Hi, thanks. So I like to look at these little cones as boundaries. Boundaries keep you locked into what you're doing. It prevents you from going off course, and it keeps you headed in the right direction. So the next time somebody says, could you do just one more thing? You have to think about what kind of meeting or event am I designing, and how much is this going to add to that experience for my participant? So I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite clients, and maybe you have a favorite client just like this too. His name was Keith, and he was the vice president of marketing for a company called EFD. They don't exist anymore. So if they were ever your clients, they were a great client. So Keith was planning this fabulous sales meeting, global sales meeting, at the Radisson Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is now the Wekopa Hotel. Has anybody been there? It is beautiful. It's on Native American land. And he said, Lynn, I have found the best thing ever. And I said, what is that, Keith? And he said, they are called bola bola. Does everybody know what a bolo tie is? That little leather strip that you wear around your neck and it slides up and down? Well, Keith had found bola bola bola, and they were bolo ties that also doubled as name tags. And I said, you are so right, Keith. That is an awesome idea. Let me research that for you. And so I did. I spent 3 weeks and 21 hours, and I called Keith up, and who can tell me what he said? Exactly. Lynn, that was so 3 weeks ago. So who knows what I'm thinking, right? I want those 3 weeks back and those 21 hours back, right? So has that ever happened to anybody in here? Okay, you want to share? You can change names. Tell me a story.
A story.
Or a similar experience, yes.
Okay. So yes, we get that quite often. We have a lot of opinions, and everybody is different. So you'll start down one path, working on this, and then somebody else will interject, and now you're down this other path, and kind of does the thing because everybody wants to appease everybody else.
Exactly. And so it rolls from there. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else want to share? Right? It just rolls from there, and then you think, how did I get to where I am? And that's why it's really important that you, stay where you are, right? Those little construction cones, they're going to keep you on the right track. So when somebody says, could you just do one more thing? You have to go back to your goals and objectives and your budget, the basics of all meeting planning, and think about how is that going to impact the experience of the participant? How far am I going to wander away from my little circle? How is that going to affect me? So let me know if this has ever happened to you. Okay, you've been out of the office, you're so excited, you're going to have the whole afternoon. You're going to write, 4 or 5 proposals, return 20 or 30 emails, right? And then maybe catch up on the office gossip. And then the phone rings, and it's your easy client, or so you thought. And he says, you need to get down here right away. We have lots going on. So you grab your assistant, you jump in your car, and you're like, the easy client, this was supposed to be my easy client. What is so bad that I have to come right away? So you get down there, and the easy client says, well, remember all those social media posts that you wrote? And you say, yes. And he says, well, everything's changed, so we need to double them. Oh, and then remember you wrote that proposal for the awards gala? And you say, yes. And he says, well, that needs to be revised. And as you're getting in your car, you're thinking, for the 7th time? And then you're wondering, how did the easy client, the one that you gave a smoking deal to, because it was going to be a bundle of work that was going to be so easy, manage to turn into a high-maintenance client? And then you realize you've been hijacked by the scope creep. Has that ever happened to anybody here? Oh, okay. Do you want to share? Client's in the room, right? I'll go back here. She's in sales. Do you want to share? Yeah. Okay. Wait. Oh. You get to talk into that. I love those.
I have what I thought was a very low maintenance client, but every time we went to the finalization of a contract, the board would step in and say, we found lower rates on the internet, so we need you to do a report to show the value of this contract because of what we found on the internet.
Oh, and so did you ask them, how many rooms were you looking for? 100, and they could find 2 at that price, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I feel like I'm talking to my godson right now. But Aunt Lynn, I found it on the internet. But Drew, could you get 100 of them, right? So you're right. Not only is that a challenge, but that's an educational process too.
Right.
Anybody else ever have that happen to them? Oh, you want to share? Oh, let me take my catch box. Sorry. Pardon? Oh, well, go ahead. We want to hear your voice. Don't be shy.
Well, I guess I think that's very similar how you could, clients get very frustrated when they find things online on opaque websites and things like that, but you have to show them the true value of, value selling of why their program means what you need at your hotel, but also educate the client, because I feel it's hard to educate somebody when they're buying, they see something verbatim in their head, but you need to walk them through the steps. And then showing that time to truly walk them, they can get sometimes understanding, sometimes there's no understanding.
Right, so it's a lot of education, and then what goes with that? You're not just buying rooms, right? You're getting commission, you're negotiating a whole spend. So that person that thinks that they're doing that favor for you, they don't realize the whole impact of that budget and what it's going to do. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about the term scope creep, and we're going to learn 3 ways to use it to your advantage. Then we're going to add 5 new resources to assist you while your to-do list keeps growing. Who keeps to-do lists? Right? So when I first got married, I have to-do lists in 4 places, and it would drive my husband crazy. He wanted it all to be in one place. I told him, I have to write it down when I think about it. And then we're going to learn to triage a request to determine the best plan of action. Quick, cheap, or right, but you can only have how many? 2! Exactly. Did you know that? You can only have 2. Great. Oh, who was that? Oh, it's the one with the good jewelry. So I'm going to tell you now about my friend Kate. My friend Kate is in our industry. She's very successful. I don't know how she does it. She has 4 businesses all within our industry. But one of them is a DMC. So who here has ever worked with or worked for a DMC? Excellent. So who's been to Phoenix, Arizona? Who's been to Corona Ranch? No one? Okay. If you ever do a meeting in Phoenix, it is the best off-premise venue ever existed by God. And I'm serious. So they have, when you arrive, they give you margaritas, and there's mariachis. And those margaritas taste better than you remember. So Kate was doing an event for 800 out at Corona Ranch. 800, 800, 800, 800, 800, and then guess what happened? 3 weeks before the event, her client called, and she said, Kate, my numbers are now down to 400. Who can tell me what happens next? No, this is an event, not sleeping rooms, but yeah, Tricia. So Kate calls in Ashley. Aren't they all Ashley today? She calls in Ashley and she says, Ashley, please contact all the vendors. We've got to contact the caterer, the table linen people, the cigar rollers, Tequila Sheila, right? The Western Games. We've got to get everything down to 400. You know, and it's not like when I was 25. Today, you have to text and email and phone call because not everybody responds to all the ways that we respond to for information. So Ashley did all that, and Kate went ahead and billed her client for that extra time because Kate felt that was above the scope of work that was in the contract. So who knows what the client said to Kate? She said, Kate, I gave you my guarantee 3 weeks early. Why are you charging me for that time? Right, you worked for a DMC. So think about it. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but I'm saying, have we not all found ourselves in a similar situation? Right? Time is our currency. Whoops. So has that ever happened to you? You're working on a program, the numbers change, and you're trying to find a way now to make it profitable. And does that happen daily, weekly, monthly? Right? It happens all the time. Does anybody want to share a story similar to Kate's? Okay, then I'm going to tell you about my least favorite client. He's not in business anymore either. His name was Sean. And Sean was doing an event. Has anybody been to the beautiful Scottsdale Princess Resort? Oh, I saw a hand go up. Oh, isn't it beautiful? So Sean was doing an event at the Scottsdale Princess Resort, 600 salespeople coming in from around the world. And the theme was Desert Breezes, which if you've been to the Princess, it's a perfect theme. So who knows, who here hires entertainment? And when is the spot time? When does that entertainer show up? Well, if it's a band or a DJ, hour before, right? Sean wanted them 2 hours before, and then he wanted them to stay 1 hour after. He didn't want, and I didn't disagree with him, he didn't want his participants seeing them setting up or taking down. But yet he wasn't willing to pay for those 2 extra hours, right? So he was trying to stretch that time and get those hours for free. So again, he was trying to creep outside the scope that we had established by adding a wild card into the mix. So be careful, because when he was talking, it sounded so reasonable what he was asking for until I really thought about it. And then I had to say, I'm sorry, Sean, that doesn't work for my performers. Would it work for yours? So it was a very difficult negotiation from there, but it happened. So let's talk about the scope creep advantage. Now, usually when I show this slide, somebody says this totally happened to me. So have you ever had an idea percolating around in your brain, and it seemed like the best solution to a problem that you had all the time in your job? And you're thinking, why didn't anybody else think of this? Or it must not be a good idea, otherwise it would have been implemented, right? Has anybody ever had that happen? And then it happens, right? Oh, I love this woman. A crisis happens, and you go to the boss and you say, Mr. Boss Man, I have the best solution for this problem ever. And I'm going to tell you how it's going to work. I'm going to tell you how it's going to bring an ROI back to the goals and objectives to the meeting, and then I'm going to look like a superhero. It's going to show that you took initiative, you had drive, and you thought about what you were doing. So tell us about when it happened to you.
I got shot down.
Really?
Well, in the initial meeting, I got shot down. Oh, thank you. So in the initial meeting, I got shot down
Of
when I
course.
brought up the idea. But then when it happened, somebody else on the team went in with the idea and took credit for it. So that's why I was laughing.
Oh, that's right. That happened to me with my volunteer-a-thon, right? I didn't win the Rise Award. The guy after me did. Absolutely. That's all right. I took one for the team.
Yeah.
So did it work when he suggested it?
Yes.
And
And notice how you said he. No offense, Dirk.
Thank you. I think it is.
You can have two in case one of them's your heart. All right, but see, that is a great idea. So you never know. You never know. So when you do that, it brings value back to your job performance, and it shows that you've really thought about what you did. Anybody else in here have an experience like that that you want to share? Okay. So who here has ever planned a Western night? Ah, yes. So I was in Kansas City, and I said, what do you call Western nights in Kansas City? And they said, Western nights. But if you were in LA, it would be a surfing night, right? Okay, so Western nights, let's think about it. Who did their Western night outside? And who did it inside? Oh, you did both. And so did you have a band or a DJ?
We've had both.
And which did you prefer better?
The band.
The band. Band or DJ? Band or DJ? Band. Great. And then indoors and out, steaks off the grill or buffet? Buffet? Pitchfork? Tell me. Yes. I've never heard of that. Oh, God, I'm getting educated today. All right, and then did you have props and decor, Western games? Right? Did you give out cowboy hats? So I once did an event for a company, and we showed, it was so fun, Clint Eastwood's spaghetti westerns on the wall. That was part of their Western night. So let me tell you about my Western night. So again, my favorite client, Keith, who I loved, they were at the beautiful Radisson Fort McDowell, and they have off-premise space there called La Puesta del Sol. So we're setting up at La Puesta del Sol, and who walks up but the CEO? And he says, Lynn. I said, yes. He goes, everything is so stellar, so stellar. I said, thank you, Mr. CEO. He said, in fact, I am going to show the video I showed at the shareholders meeting. I'm so excited. And who knows what I'm thinking, right? I'm outside with a band. What else do I need? Right? Screen, AV, projector, technician. So I said, no problem at all, Mr. CEO. Can I have you sign this? It's an event change order. And I estimate your charges to be about $3,000. And he said, oh, it's going to be so stellar. I'm so happy to. So who uses this, an event change order? No. Oh, Linda does? Anybody else? So when a client makes changes on site, how do you know to add those charges or not? Has this ever happened to you? Because this has happened to me more than twice. You're doing an awards gala, and somebody screams, what do they scream? Champagne for everyone, right? And you're thinking, how did that hotel have 50 bottles of chilled champagne that they can just bring right out right now? But in the meantime, you're thinking, well, who authorized that and who's going to pay for it? Because my little business could not take that $2,500 hit or whatever it would be, right? So by having this change order form, not only are you having the documentation that the person ordered it, but they're also authorized to sign for that. So now you know who's going to sign for it. Or who's ever done weddings? Anybody sick like me that likes weddings? Does not that bride's mother Does not that bride's mother change her mind like every 45 seconds? And so it's really hard to keep track of what she's really asking for and how to charge for it. So this is another, I love how you're laughing at me. So this is another great hint that's going to help you in the future. So make sure that you have a change order. But I'll tell you about my CEO again. So he goes, oh, Lynn, this party is so stellar, stellar, stellar. Now remember, these are not spouses. These are just their salespeople. He goes, I want to extend the band for another hour. So that's 5 band members. At how much a band member per hour, right? $500. So that's $2,500. Mr. CEO, can you sign right here? So now I have additionally billed $3,500 in the short span of 4 hours, right? So make sure that you're able to track that money back. Because sometimes you're like, where did that go? Or why did I pay for that? So these are the resources I think we as meeting and event planners use the most. So time, like I said before, time is our currency. Do you ever feel that way? You know, some people are motivated by money. We're not. Obviously, we're in this business. But time is our currency. So you're like, I can call you at 7 while I drive to my breakfast meeting, and then on the way back, I can call somebody else from 8 to 8:30. So, right? Are you not always layering things in? My husband never saw anything like that till he married me. He'd never seen a minute to minute. He thought stuff just happened. So, communications, whoever feels like you just never communicate correctly. So my good friend John Garbison taught me this. He opens up a closed LinkedIn group for every meeting and event. And then everybody can post in their real time. And the only people that have access are the stakeholders to that meeting and event. That way you're not, don't you hate it? You go back to your office, your email's clogged up because somebody hit reply all, right? Reply all and reply all. So this limits all that. It allows people to ask questions directly to the person that has the information. I think it's a great tool. Who's ever had enough money to do an event? Julie, even when you do incentives, do you have enough money? But you always wish you had more. Always want more. So there's lots of ways to generate more money. You can negotiate for sponsorships. You can look for in trade, right? Or you can do like my good friend Keith, who had the marketing budget, but his meeting planner didn't have access to that whole budget. She just had access to her meeting planning budget. Okay, who here was trained in your job? Really? Nobody trained you for your job? So did you ever feel like you're on a scavenger hunt, right? So you start your new job, and you're going through files, and maybe you actually have access to the computer, and then the phone rings. And it's like, hi, it's Joey. I was just checking on blah, 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 blah. And you say, Joey, I'll get back to you. And now you're so excited because you know what your job is for Joey. Or your boss walks up to you, and he'll say, where are you at on the budget for our meeting in Sacramento? And you think, no, I know 2 things I got to do. Right? We're all on our own training path. Then there's human resources. So I mentioned before my friend Kathy Overcamp, who works now as the meeting planner for American Airlines. She was the only one in her department when she was America West. And she would beg for another employee. And then it happened. She got Carrie O'Brien Rose. Love her. And within 18 months, Carrie was overwhelmed. And so they hired an assistant. And I was so thrilled because it was one of my students. And I was like, thank you, Kathy, for walking the walk. Serviceability. Now, have you ever been a victim, because this has happened to me so many times. You have this great idea, and then you go to implement it, and it doesn't work, right? So that falls under great ideas, bad execution. Has that ever happened? You think, oh, she's cute. Have you ever thought, this is going to solve everything? Everything. I won't make you talk. And then information. I was talking about this before. So sometimes you think you're giving the right information to somebody, but you're not. Maybe you're giving them your production schedule and your timeline and your show flow, but they want to know, who do I talk to at the loading dock to make my appointment to unload the truck? And you can't understand why you're not giving them the information that they want, because in your mind you are. And then there's trends. So who can tell me what trends we see today? The worst of all worst, right? Vegan. Followed quickly by what? Gluten-free, yes! And then my new favorite, what I used to do a lot with Honeywell, when she eliminated bottled water, Kim Johnson, she saved $10,000 at one meeting. So now we went back from old school water pitchers to bottled water. Hotels were making out, and now we're back to water pitchers. So it's all the trends. Does anybody see another trend? There's one other one that I'm seeing right now, so I'm going to stand over here away from the hotel people. So when we were planners and the rates were so low and we were booking 3, 4, and 5 years out for our meetings and events, and we were getting smoking rates at the hotels, right? But then we were planning a meeting for 300, just like this, crescent style. Now our meetings are 500 and 600, and crescent style is not going to work. We might have to go to theater or schoolroom, but a different type of seating so that everybody can be accommodated in that space. So I see that trend coming now, and I see hotels, they're going to start creating fees just for that. Reset the room. So when I was doing research on this project, I met this guy named Mike Ingardia, and his middle name was P. And he said, "How great, Lynn, you're calling MPI about MPI. This is destiny." So he said, and this is the crux of my presentation, he said, "Lynn, projects never go over budget. It's the task to complete the projects that go over budget." So let me say it again. Hi, how are you? It's the projects don't go over budget. It's the task to complete the projects that go over budget. So I was actually working with the meeting planner for Keith. Her name was Courtney, and we were working on the holiday party. And Mr. CEO came in and he goes, "Oh, girls, I know this holiday party is going to be stellar. Stellar. Oh, Lynn, you always do such a good job." He said, "Oh, yes, by the way, my wife and I, we were at a bat mitzvah Saturday night, and they had pixel paint. And we're going to have that at the holiday party. Make it happen." And he left. So Courtney and I just looked at each other because we had a great party plan, on budget, on target, with everything everybody wanted. So when the CEO left, obviously, we were having pixel paint, right? But then I had to decide. I had to decide as the project manager, was I going to assign that to Amanda? Because my Amanda, she was overseeing all the vendors, the decor, the entertainment, the table linens, the centerpieces. Or was I going to make that contact because it's my good friend Beth that owns Pixel Paint? And so that's adding more tasks to me to either manage Amanda or manage myself. And so that's how your tasks can go over, because you're eroding your time that you based your budgets on. So has that ever happened to anybody here? Suddenly you don't know how you're in charge of something or how it even got there. So let me know if this has happened to you. So have you ever had this? Your boss comes up to you and he says, "I want you to plan this meeting or event, and this is your budget." And you look at him and you're thinking, "Where do you shop, buddy? No. How could I do all this on that budget?" And so what I suggest is this. You start out with what they want and how much that's going to cost. Then you do a real proposal based on your true budget and what you can get for that. And then don't waste any more of your time. You send that right to your boss and let them waste their time. Because as I've demonstrated already today, there's pockets of money that you don't really know about. And why should you waste your time trying to save all that money? Let them direct you, because you're going to find that it's going to come out halfway between. You'll end up with more money and more things. So has that happened to anybody here? So that's a great solution. I suggest that you try it. The first time I did it, I was a little nervous, but it worked out well. So I'm going to tell you, so I told you about Sean out at the Scottsdale Princess. So we were doing a dinner outside. They used to have this fabulous area called the Crown Peak Corral. It's not there anymore because they just added 100 rooms to that hotel. So we were doing this beautiful Desert Breezes event, Native American theme. And I was going to do ecru, beige, and sage table linens with cactus gardens, cocopellis, and something that lights up. And I'm in my office, and I get a phone call from my friend Linda, my linen vendor. And she says, "Are you in your office?" "I am." She said, "Can I pop in?" "Well, I'm in sales. Aren't we about FaceTime?" "Sure, you can pop in." So Linda pops in, and she opens up a box, and she takes it out, and there it is. So beautiful, like a piece of Native American jewelry. It's silver and turquoise and coral and mother of pearl, and it was a napkin ring. A napkin ring, 600 of them. Okay, so I said, "Linda, how much are these?" She said they're $8 each. So who's with me now? $4,800, right? Plus someone to put them out, someone to pick them up, and then you got to pay for the ones that are missing, right? I got plenty. So I thought to myself, what could I do to make this an even more engaging experience for my participants, my attendees? If I had $5,000, because certainly that's what those napkin rings would have been. Can you believe napkin rings? Seriously. So I thought about it, and then it came to me. Derek Davis, 7-time world champion Native American hoop dancer. Has anybody seen a hoop dancers? You've never, oh, you've got to Google it or YouTube it, Native American, Derek Davis. So I called Derek up and I said, "Hi, Derek, it's Lynn." He said, "Hi." I said, "Derek, are you available on this day?" He said, "For you, I am." "Thank you." I said, "Derek, what could you do 2 shows instead of 1 at this price?" He said, "For you, I could, Lynn." I'm like, oh my God, I still have a lot of money left over. So I said, "Derek, what could I do to enhance your performance?" He said, "Well, Lynn, you can have low-lying fog, and you can have laser lights, and you can have this, and I can bring my 5-year-old son." And I said, "It's a deal." And with all those extras in that production, I was still under my $5,000 from my napkin rings. So I guarantee you today, anybody that attended that meeting still remembers Derek Davis, 7-time world champion hoop dancer. But do you think anybody would remember that napkin ring? And that is why I say, when someone says, can you just do one more thing, you have to think about that impact it's going to have on that participant. But here's just a little crazy side story. So we were using these casitas for green rooms, and when Derek got off the stage, it was mobbed. I could not get back to get him, to manage him. So he goes up to a casita, and he knocks on the door, and this little boy opens up with a Dutch boy haircut, and he goes, "Oh my God, Dad, it's a real Indian." So I always stay close to my stage now. So again, don't let your vendor help you get outside the scope of your goals and objectives. Remember, you're there for the participant. They need to experience those 6 dimensions. That's what's going to leave an impact on them. So I've talked a couple of times about extras that were added on, and this is another great tip you might want to write down. Invoice right away. Invoice right away so you won't forget that somebody did order that champagne, or they did extend that band for an hour, or they did add that AV presentation. And then you can decide if you're going to bill them or not. Does everybody know what a PITA fee is? So in Arizona, they're called a pain in the A fee. So we call them PITA fees. So maybe that's what you want to charge. Or maybe you don't. Maybe they're a really good guy and they're a repeat customer. So has this ever happened to you? You go to a client meeting and you walk in and the head guy's not there. And then a couple of people, they're milling about and they're eating donuts and muffins and bagels. And then someone walks in and he goes, "Hey, you, where are we at on this and where are we at on that? And you better get moving and I'm late, I gotta go." And you're standing there and nothing has ever happened except you are getting yelled at, right? So this is what I suggest, and it works like a charm. It's so 8th grade. Make an agenda. Make an agenda and have it come out from your head person. In that agenda, you can assign tasks and the person's name next to it. That way you know who's responsible for what. And then I do this and it drives people crazy. I take minutes and I send them out, and if you're not there, I assign you a task in the minutes. Because my theory is be there or be talked about, right? So that way people can look through It's clearly defined, and when he says, where are we at on this, you can go, you know, that belongs to Sally. Let's check with her. It gives you some clarity and decision on which way to go. So here's some new resources. Technology and the training to use it. Who just bought new technology? Did you buy the training? No. And how did you learn how to use the software? Self-taught? Didn't you just buy software? No? Pardon? Oh, okay. Did anybody just buy technology? A lot of times you buy technology, but you don't buy the training to use it, right? Who's ever taken Jim Spellos' Excel class? 5 times I've taken it. Steph, how much did you learn? A little bit. When I learned that you could split cells, freeze cells, and what was the other one? And merge cells, that hour saved me about 1,000,000 hours. So trust me, you can be out of the office for 6 hours. The day will not implode. Kathy Overcamp, she loves to use volunteers or retired employees. Does anybody use them? Okay. You use them too? She finds that it's the best way to connect. People are catching up with their old friends. They're learning about what's going on in the company. In Phoenix, we have an organization called Make a Difference where people sign up to volunteer just for that one day. Internal resources. So my friend Shelley worked in HR for this company for 11 years. And one day the meeting planner needed some graphics work done. So she said to HR, it's June or maybe a little slow. Can I maybe borrow a body? So Shelley did all this graphics. And when there was an opening, she got the job in meeting planning. Right? So you never know. It was great. She'd been planning all the company parties in human resources. It was a very easy switch for her. Who uses interns? Do you love them? Love them? As a teacher, I love interns. I love their energy. I love their enthusiasm. But most of all, I love that they don't know what the rules are. So they come up with these great, innovative ideas that I could never have thought about. And then there's outsourcing. So I'm seeing a lot of you wince right now. I want to say that word again, outsourcing. So most of you are thinking, that's my job to get that done. Why would I outsource? But I'm telling you, your job is to get the meeting done. It's not to do all the work for the meeting, right? So you must know independent planners. They might have contacts and connections that you can't access or you don't know about. They might have backstage passes to meetings or events or scenery that you didn't know existed. I worked at the Phoenix Zoo. Not everybody knows you can do a zookeeper's tour behind the scenes. So they can get you the information in the way that you want it, in your timeline, and it will save you so much time and so much money. It's like waving a magic wand. Poof, and your problem disappears. So remember, take the time, take a deep breath, and reach for the help that you need. And if you're concerned about your budget, your working more diminishes your income. And then you have to look at what you're paying your employees. It actually might be cheaper or more fiscally conservative to actually outsource to someone else. Does anybody have any other resources that I didn't talk about that you use that you want to share? No? No one? Okay. Are you laughing because you have one? No. Okay. So let's talk about triaging a request. So triage came out of the French Revolutionary War. It was a way to best distribute resources to the patients to determine who was going to recover the most. So you do it on your best plan of action, quick, cheap, or right, but you can only have how many? 2. That's right. All the AV people know that. So you have to decide, is this the best use of this resource? Is it going to make the most impact on the experience of the participant? And am I going to be able to achieve success? So whenever I show this slide, someone says, I do. Does anybody use a color coding system? So I used to work for a woman. Anybody use ACT? I worked for a woman. I swear she got in at 4 in the morning. She told me it was really 6. I would open up to my day, and all in green, it would be my whole day of what she wanted me to do. I didn't have the heart to tell her it would take me a month. I would just say, thank you, Camille. Thank you for giving me a job. But who here remembers when we would mimeograph BEOs? Right? So they would all be color-coded. It would be white and yellow and goldenrod, green and blue. But I suggest this. I suggest if you need it to be taken care of, if something is assigned to you in red, then it should be taken care of within 2 to 4 hours. If it's orange, maybe that day. If it's yellow, that week. If it's green, maybe that month. If it's blue, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get back to you or not. I don't know if I'm going to assign it or not. I'm going to wait till I hear back from you. Because as I've talked, people often ask you to do things and then they forget. And then that violet color, maybe I'll get back to it, or it's in my waiting file. And then the one below is black. And I call that my great ideas file. And that's where I put all those great ideas that one day I'm going to actually get back to. All right, Q&A. Any questions, thoughts, concerns, feedback? No one? Don't be shy. Okay. So a little review. So we talked about the term scope creep, and we learned 3 ways to use it to our advantage, right? We came up with an idea. We presented it in the time of a crisis. We showed how it would relate to the goals and objectives of our meetings, and it brought value to our job performance. Then we talked about 5 new resources, the technology and training to use it, volunteers or retired employees, internal resources, interns, or outsourcing. And then we learned to triage a request, where you determine the best plan of action, quick, cheap, or right, but you can only have 2. So this is everyone that helped me with my presentation today. So I just tell you to be ready, because Scope Creep, the uninvited guest, is coming back to visit you soon. Thank you so much. I want to thank Mary Tao and Steph, and thank you, MPI Minnesota.